thank you, Jean, and good afternoon to everyone. We are close to the end, which is in some ways it's sad and nice also. And I want to thank Jean very much because he are organized all the day very, very well, and Dania also, his wife. It's really wonderful. I want to thank the speaker. We had a wonderful day with so many talks of very high quality. It's very impressive. Happily, and it's very good, we had very different opinions from the one to the other, and this is that makes the quality of the debate. And I want to thank also the audience, of course. So my talk today is to examine if there are boundaries between science and this particular part of philosophy, which is metaphysics. So it's a very sensitive topic, but we have to get in. I think it's very important, especially because this relation between science and philosophy, between physics and metaphysics, has changed dramatically during these last 20 or 30 years. So, as you know, metaphysics, one of the main domains of metaphysics, is to know if there is a creator God, if there is a cause to the universe. A cause, as the philosophers of the 18th century used to say, the universe is a clock, and the question is to know if there is a clockmaker. So it's an important question because concerning the question of the possible existence of a creator God, the answer of many, many people is today there is no evidence of a creator God, because if there was any evidence, we would know it, of course. And some go further even that this usual and very common opinion. Some went very much further and say not only there is no evidence of a creator God, but that cannot be. It is impossible there is any proof or evidence of the creator God. And they say the reason is that the domain of science and the domain of science, or the domain of physics, and the domain of metaphysics are two domains which are completely separated. So as they are completely separated, there is nothing to interact one between the other with the other, and they have nothing to say one to the other. And they should each live in and stay in their own lane. This has been theorized by a paleontologist that you know, which is Robert J. Gould in 1997, with a very well-known acronym, No Overlapping Magisteria. So for Gould, the exclusion that NOMA presuppose applies to everything. It applies to religion, faith, and to God. And if we agree, and I agree completely, that there is a NOMA, a real NOMA between science and religion and faith, but I will try to show that this exclusion between physics and metaphysics does not exist anymore. This is the main subject of my talk today. First, it's very important to consider that faith and religion are one thing, and the existence of a creator God are something completely different. The existence of a creator God is a fact. It is true or it is false, and there is no in between. There is a creator God or there is no creator God. It's not like faith and religion. So we can just think of the existence of a creator God without talking of religion and faith. I'm not going to talk of religion and faith at all. It's a different domain. I'm going just to discuss the point, is there a common boundaries between physics and metaphysics? So it is possible that in the past, these two domains, which are like two circles, had no common boundaries, but this has changed in the last decades, perhaps, I don't know if it is 30, 40, 50 years. It doesn't matter very much. But what is very interesting is that since some decades, science has made discoveries which have made three questions which are simultaneously belonging to the domain of physics and belonging to the domain of metaphysics. So I give you the list of the 3 questions, and after I would like to examine these 3 questions. The main reason to examine these 3 questions is to show that there is now an overlapping between physics and metaphysics. So the first question is our universe eternal, or did it have an absolute beginning? This is the first question. The second question is, everybody agrees that our universe results from an extraordinarily precise and improbable fine-tuning. How then can this reality be explained within a materialistic framework? And the third question, which has been largely discussed today, with very, very interesting, can life appear naturally from inanimate matter without a fine-tuning of the universe laws that is even more improbable than the one existing in cosmology? And is there still a plausible materialistic theory to explain the appearance of life on Earth? So these are the 3 questions, and I would like to take one by one and say why these 3 questions are both metaphysical and physical and physics questions. They belong to it. So if we start to the first question, it's clear that the first question, which is the beginning of the universe, is clearly a philosophical question, because as Parmenides, the philosopher, said 2,500 years ago, from nothing, nothing can come. So in Latin, it was ex nihilo nihil. And I think that today, almost 99% of all thinkers, philosophers, and scientists agree on that. So it's very good. There is perhaps 1 or 2 examples, but very, very, very small, of people who said, no, it's not true. But let's say 99.9% believe this is true. And there is a consequence to that, which is very important, is that all the materialists, which is something which I respect completely, all materialists, the one who holds the belief of materialism, because materialism, of course, is a belief like another, they all have to believe that in a way or another, our universe is eternal. Well, perhaps our universe had the singularity, a Big Bang, but then there was another before, and there was another before, so there is many possible theories, but in a way, so we see that this question of the beginning, the absolute beginning, I say, of course, absolute beginning, not beginning, absolute beginning, which means ex nihilo. This question of the beginning of the universe is, of course, a philosophical question, and everybody agrees that if there is no creator God, the universe cannot have an absolute beginning. But this question, which was only philosophical for centuries, interestingly enough, has become, during this last century, a question which can be also discussed by science. And if science has not brought an absolute proof that our universe had an absolute beginning, it has brought 7, we have been making in our chapter 7 in our book, we are describing 7, has brought 7 evidence that it is highly improbable or impossible that our universe is eternal, whatever is the way. I use the word as, and I want to say thank you to Jean and also to Philippe, we are using the word evidence because in the real world, there is no absolute proof. Absolute proof is something which is only in mathematics. It doesn't exist anywhere else. So in the real world, where we are, the only way to progress is to make observation, from observation to make a theory, from a theory to look if the theory has implications or not, and if we have implication which can be discussed in the real world, then to say if the implications are true or false. And if they are false, then the theory is false. So we have 7 evidence that our universe cannot be eternal. The 2 first one are from a science which we have not discussed today, which is thermodynamics. So we all know thermodynamics. Thermodynamics is a science which has been discovered in the middle of the 19th century. And it was so shocking for the people at that time, that people refused to believe in thermodynamics, including Einstein, for a long time. So this is not very well known, but it is very important. So thermodynamics says two things, which give two different evidence. The first evidence is that everything wears out. So everything wears out, which means that our universe will have an end. It's a thermal death of the universe. And we know that everything which has an end has necessarily a beginning. So this is the first evidence. I'm not going to discuss the evidence because it is, for those who want, it is in our book. Probably you know it very well. It's not the topic of the talk tonight. The topic of the talk tonight is to say that there is an overlapping between physics and metaphysics. So the first evidence is coming from thermodynamics by the thermal death of the universe. But the thermodynamics has brought another evidence also, is that it's a question of order, which means that the disorder is growing. So in the other direction, the order, looking to the past, the order is growing. But it is almost impossible to believe that order could grow indefinitely. It's like if you have many numbers and you want to order the numbers and put them back. Once it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there is nothing better you can do. So thermodynamics is bringing two evidence that it's difficult or very highly improbable that the universe has an absolute beginning. Then the expansion of universe, we know it, we are not going to come back, is bringing one, of course. It can be discussed, but it is one. The fourth one is that the physics, all what we know in physics since 100 years, is that there is no infinite in the world. We have discovered that the speed limit is the speed of light. We have discovered that it's not impossible also to cut space or whatever in small part. It is a quantum, so there is a limit. So it seems that there are limits everywhere. It seems that there is no infinite in the real world. Another evidence, if you are interested, you can see, is coming from mathematics with Cantor and Hilbert. And these two mathematicians have made statements that infinite, the notion in infinite, is a mathematical notion only. It has no application in the real world. And of course, for the universe to be eternal, it would mean that there is an infinite of time in the past. So the mathematics are not bringing perhaps an absolute proof, but that they are bringing quite a strong, in my opinion, evidence for that. And there is also one or two evidence in philosophy, which I'm not going to discuss. It's a little bit perhaps too long, and you can find it also in the book. So we have several evidence that it is highly improbable or impossible that our universe has had an absolute beginning. Of course, you will say it's not an absolute proof, and we agree, but as Philippe and Jean said just a short time ago, we have not to look for absolute proofs because they do not exist. We are looking for the scale. There is a scale. In one side, the scale is a question of, is our universe eternal? So in one side of the scale, we have 6 or 7 evidence, which are quite strong because they are independent. And in science, and also in logic, when evidence are independent, it's very important because they are not linked together. I mean, thermodynamics has nothing to do with expansion of universe, and mathematics is also something different. So we have 7 independent evidence that it is highly improbable that our universe is eternal, and the other scale, the other side of the scale, there is just nothing. So we are not bringing an absolute proof, but we are rational people, and I believe that when we are rational people and when we have such a case, then, well, in my opinion, a reasonable mind should conclude, at least if we have to make a choice between two beliefs, because people forget frequently that materialism is a belief. It's a belief like any other, in fact. It's a belief which is even a curious belief, because they have a materialist today. He has to believe in multiverse. He has to believe that the universe is eternal. So he has to believe a lot of things. No. So this is the first question. You see, I don't want to discuss the validity of this evidence. I just want to say that since not long time, there is an overlapping between physics and metaphysics with the question of the absolute beginning of the universe. So the second question for the fine-tuning of the universe, we all know it, so it's clear that everybody agrees that our universe is fine-tuned, and it's a scientific thing, and this scientific questions is pointing to a philosophical question. So if there is fine-tuning of the universe, what could be a materialistic, plausible cause? I take these three words: materialistic, plausible cause for that. So we all know the answer of the materialist, which is that we are living in a multiverse. There are billions of universes, and this is for me, it is the only answer possible. But I would like just for us to see that the question of the multiverse is a question where there is zero today evidence of their existence. It's a pure theory without implication. It has no implication in the real world. So anyway, it's clear that this question of the fine-tuning, it's a question new, which has one foot in physics and one foot in metaphysics. And the third question, which has been debated brilliantly, I must say it was wonderful today, this afternoon, all these topics we had, these talks we had for so many people, is that the leap from inert matter to life. So we all know that for 1 century, between Darwin 1870 to 1960s, everybody thought that the leap from inert matter to life was an easy leap. And for Darwin and for many people, it was just in a pond at the foot of a volcano and with thunders. And we have seen even the image of Miller doing experiments in Chicago in 1950s for a primordial soup. And voila, so people thought it was more. Now we know that this leap is not a leap, it is a chasm. It's a giant leap. Such a giant leap that we do not have today. We all believe that life exists, and we all believe, and I believe personally, that life is coming from inert matter. But I believe, and Olivier also, that life is coming from inert matter through another fine-tuning that we don't understand well today. And when we will discover it, we will be amazed also by the extraordinary fine-tuning of the universe to be able to bring life out of matter. But we can see that the question of life, apparition of life from inert matter, is a scientific question. We have been discussing it today extensively, but it is also a metaphysical question, because if someone is materialist, today there is no theory. There is not a theory of the apparition. There is perhaps ways we can imagine that perhaps it could, but there is no theory of the apparition. So, in fact, as I already said, I'm not here to discuss the validity of this question to know if there are valid proof that there is a creator God. I just want to show something which is very sensitive, not easily accepted, I believe, by most of the people we can meet, perhaps even here today, because it's a little bit, it's a little bit make people upset. But in my opinion, it is clear that we are in a new situation. There is an overlapping between physics and metaphysics. Voilà. It will make people upset. And I just think of this funny story this morning I loved so much of teleology, which is to a biologist what the mistress of a married man is, which means that he cannot live without her, but he doesn't want to show himself with her. So I love this story very much. And I think it's a little bit like that also. We can see that many people, they don't want to have problems. So what they say in private is not what they say in public. Well, so God is a little bit the mistress sometime, or supernatural fine-tuning is a little bit the mistress of the cosmologists today. So I would like to continue now and to say why. Why is it so difficult for people to accept that there is an overlapping between physics and metaphysics? It is because, a very simple question, it is because the existence of a creator God is a passionate question. It is a terribly passionate question. Everybody understands that if there is a creator God, for many people, it is a limitation of their freedom and possibly a judgment of their life. So people want to freedom, absolute freedom, complete freedom, especially at our time, and they don't want judgment. So in French they say, ni Dieu ni maître, no God, no master. So then I'm free. Don't want to discuss that. I believe it's completely false, of course, but it would be another day to discuss that. It's very, very interesting. But we understand that it is very passionate. And I would like to give you a small story to show that you can touch with your fingers that it is a passionate question, including in science. Let's take two questions which are extremely similar, and we shall see how they are treated. The first question is, do Martians exist? Do extraterrestrial, do they exist? And the question is, do a creator God exist? We can see that these two questions are very close. They are almost the same question. It is a question to know if a person that we have never seen exists or not. In one case, the Martians, in the other case, a creator God. So these two questions, which are similar, let's see the reaction of the people for that. So when we are talking of the Martians, everybody is nice and friends and smiling and laughing, and people are investing money, and a lot of money, countries together, sending rockets and sending satellites and antennas to know if there is Martians. And people say, wow, if Martian exists, that's wonderful. And if they don't exist, well, that's a pity. But that's all. Have you seen ever people fighting for the question of the existence of Martian? Never. Well, now you ask the same question and you replace Martians by God. And what a creator God is just a Martian. It's much more intelligent. But in fact, it's more or less the same thing. And in that case, we know all that there is tension. We have big tensions. Voilà. Such tensions, like many are like the mistress. Please stay, stay there. We don't want to see you. So it is important, I think, to understand that. This is why there is difficulties to make people accept that there is an overlapping between physics and metaphysics. I would like to say that there is one more obstacle. And I'm just thinking, wait, it's all right? 1 minute, is it two? Well, so the last obstacle I would say is that many scientists, and I understand them and I agree with them, they would like to keep science pure and outside of all what is passionate, dispute, conflict. They don't want to be in that. So I understand that very well. Okay, so they say science has to be pure, so we want to prefer to be in the norma. We don't want to discuss with the existence of God. We don't want to discuss with anything where there is dispute. Okay, I can understand that. But in another way, science has been bringing to humanity a lot of good. It has been bringing medicine, it has been bringing health, it has been bringing vaccines, it has been bringing a lot of things. And health is very important, but truth is even more important than health. And I think that if perhaps I had to choose between a science which is pure but refuse to discuss important matters. I would prefer a science which is going at risk a little bit and discussing the matter of a creator God. Because if, I need 1 minute more minute, because if God does not exist, it is important to know it so that people do not live in illusion and spend time to useless practices. And at the opposite, if there is a creator God, it opens door to many things interesting. So I think that I would be on the second side, and it would be great if science one day could bring a final, and it's possibly, I think it's possible, could bring a final answer to this question of always of the humanity. What are we? What are we? What are we? Are we just the result of chance or necessity, or are we much more? And this perhaps will happen one day. Thank you very much.